All right. Okay.
Yeah.
Hit go. All right. We have all the way through to June. uh, uh, yes. No, sorry. Kia ora koutou. Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to our first workshop for the full LTP. We're also heading back into our live streamed part of the afternoon. And with me, I've got David and I've got Jana. Jana is coordinating our documents and leading our document delivery in the LTP. I'm the project manager. And today we wanted to talk to you to share the program plan, which was in your in reading, and to discuss any questions you have, to talk through the timelines and time commitments that are required from now until the LTP is adopted at the end of June next year. To also note the difference between the LTPA that we've just been through and this LTP, and what will be different, what will we be doing differently this time. We'd also like to hear your early thoughts on the vision for the LTP 2024. In 12 months, what do we want to look back and say that the LTP has achieved? So, also as we go through, you might notice that our slides are a bit less colourful than normal. This is quite deliberate because we wanted to start this LTP process with a clean slate, a blank page, if you like, so that the narrative of this and the images and designs that we would like to pull through to shape this LTP will come from the discussions with you and the priorities that are identified. So today's pretty black and white, but that is just an early start and on purpose. So today, where we are and where we need to get to. So right at the start of our LTP process, usually an 18-month process, and we are doing it, it's 10 months between now and June. We've actually got slightly longer than we did for the LTPAs. And so we've done that, and we can do this. Thank you. Yeah. Today, we're seeking from you guidance about whether this LTP should cover a 10 or 20 year period, and as mentioned, a steer on your vision for the LTP, initial thoughts on key issues and projects to include. So we're going to move into the process, which Jenna will take you through, and then we'll move on.
Cool. So a lot of this should be fairly familiar to you, so considering we've just done a long-term plan. But some of it will be talking about how we're approaching this next LTP as well. So just to remind you about the purpose of a long-term plan, it describes the activities of council. What do we do day to day? It describes the outcomes. So what are we trying to achieve for our district? Provides integrated decision-making and coordination throughout the council. The purpose of this is to provide a long-term focus for the decisions we're making now that will benefit the community in the future, and also provide the basis for accountability. So what is the goal of this LTP? And during the debrief of the long-term plan amendment we've just done, we heard from you that you had a desire to undertake early engagement and continue to grow relationships within the community. We started in this direction with the long-term plan amendment, and now we have a unique opportunity to increase quality engagement and develop further in this space. So we've ended up with a goal to develop an LTP that tells one coherent story about our district. It'll be based on an extensive amount of information, strong engagement with the community, and represents the strategic vision of our district and our council as a whole. So what are we actually trying to achieve? At the end of this process, we want you as elected members to feel that you have ownership over the LTP and wider process of developing it. We'll achieve this by ensuring that you as elected members are involved, contribute to and guide the development of the content for the long-term plan, from the beginning of the project, so from now until the end of it in June next year. We heard from you that you wanted the community to feel engaged throughout the long-term plan development process, and that they feel like they've been encouraged to participate throughout the process and contribute towards the final vision of the long-term plan. We as officers intend to work closely with you as elected members to develop a consultation document and supporting information that will take out to the community to tell one coherent story. We want the consultation document and the final LTP to meet all legislative requirements, of course, and we want it to be adopted by June 30th, which, as Karen mentioned, is only 2 months away. Bernie, would you like to add anything?
So Cara and Jenna asked me if I would also talk to some of the things that they're putting in front of us today, and I suppose we have been through a long-term plan amendment process. We're only 10 months into a term. It feels like we're 2.5 years into a term, I know, but the fact is we've only really got 15 months after this long-term plan is finished and our term is over. The long-term plan is the critical piece of strategy work that we do in a whole term, and that sets the plan, the direction and the aspiration for our community. So I very much think of it as a bit like our accountability report to the community, that we are on the right path and the right direction, and ensuring that it is. And Janice talked about some of the objectives, but for me it's really very much bringing our community along with us to ensure that we're preparing for that future. So if you break that 3-year term down, we're nearly a third into it. By the time June 24 comes along, we'll be more than halfway through the term. All right, and I can always remember when I first got to council, the first 18 months is where it all happens. After that, you can relax a little bit because you've done your long-term plan, you've done your vision and everything like that. It never works like that, but it is a really critical piece of work. And when you think back to why you became a councillor, this should be the reason why, because you are actually making plans and direction and vision for the future of the district. So anything that you do, should be really focused around that sort of stuff. It is about bringing your topics and aspirations to the table, and nothing is off the table. You temper that with the realisation and the realities of what even Jenny was talking about through risk and assurance, the realities of debt, capacity, our budgets, all those sorts of different things obviously are going to have a huge impact as well. But it is your opportunity to bring things to the table. Now, whether that means everybody agrees with you or not, that's a different story. That's the conversations that we have over the next 8 months, or how long it takes. But nothing should be not on the table, if you like. And because the reality is, if it's not in a long-term plan, then the chances of getting on any future plan is virtually nil, because everything that we do will be focused on the long-term plan. And I know there are some real challenges around government reform, elections, the reality of funding and all those sorts of things. But and I don't know whether today we're going to get a clear vision of what you want in the long-term plan, but it's certainly over the next little while, that's the time where you need to have that those discussions. So, I'm sure you've got a much better idea of what is entailed in a long-term plan and the amount of work that is required. And we'll talk a little bit more about that sort of thing in a minute. But that'll do for now. Cheers.
Could I just add, in terms of those thank you, Bernie, for that. In terms of the wider issues and so on, we've been a council that's very much connected ourselves to the idea of the blueprint, the plan on the page. In other words, having some very clear priorities, which we have to have as an organisation, not only for affordability reasons, but for reasons of focus, actually doing stuff in an organised way. But somewhere in the mix here is the voice of the community. And I quite liked your phrase, Bernie, where you said nothing should not be on the table, or whatever the phrase was. And it's how we match, that is a challenge, how we match that with we have the vision, we've got the plan and so on. But we mustn't forget that part of it too, because our community will be less than impressed if we go out with what looks like predetermination. And there's examples of some quite small stuff in dollar terms, and Ross and I are aware of an initiative in Foxton where already they're saying, look, with a little we could do a hell of a lot, around a sports hub idea it happens to be. But it's just about how that factors in too. So not drilling into any details at that stage, but just saying this is also needs to be part of taking the community with us, because they too have good ideas.
Can I just jump in on like I totally agree with what you said. One of the challenges we've had with the previous long-term plan is that community voice, in my opinion, comes too late, because it comes so late in the LTP cycle that you've already gone out with a proposal, then you've got great ideas coming into the mix, and then it's about, well, how do you accommodate this in the budget? Whereas if we got that pre-engagement, got that Dragon's Den style, that's not just for staff and elected members, but actually community, bringing those big, bold ideas, maybe they're short-term, maybe they're long-term, but getting them towards the end of this year then gives you actually time to work them up, test them, and then actually slot them in potentially if there's support as part of a proposal that goes out to the community. Yeah.
And agree, Sam. And I think our citizen forums and things like that could be used prior to going out to even consultation about what we're going to want to talk about. Could be very useful. I quite agree. You don't want the 11th hour, and I still go back to reflect on 2018 when Perry brought that stormwater lake issue to us on the day of deliberations. You want to avoid that if possible. While it was...
That came through hearings.
Yeah,
and people saying the lake.
But I hear, here's a $5 million project brought to you at the 11th hour is what I'm trying to say. I'm not talking about that specifically. So the more we can be preemptive, proactive, poking the bear, yeah, exactly, yeah.
And just to touch on that, so Paul and I were at Tukumara last Thursday night at their community meeting and talked them through this upcoming process, but basically said, typically we've had it from TVAC as some very articulate submissions, but they come in that submission phase, and then exactly the point you raised, that real challenge of then trying to knit that into something which is quite well baked already. And so our challenge to get them aligned and organised with a view that sort of in November, or by then, we're sort of hearing that community perspective with a view that could be sort of fed into a draft plan where as a council, you can make a decision on some things there about what might go in, what might go further, what might be consulted on and things. And so Bernie's mentioned other methods of citizen panels and things, but I think that message to those groups, particularly the ones that we know we hear from on a regular basis or make those regular submissions, how can we get them to start feeding that in earlier into this process? And certainly Karen and Janet will talk a little bit about that engagement shortly.
Who was first? By me. I'm jumping ahead looking at your project plan. And I know you've probably got a lot of presentation to get through yet. But I think one thing we really need to talk about early is in your project management team, or even in your, is it LET, or your core project team, I think there needs to be some sort of representation of iwi on that immediately at this stage. It needs to be decided now rather than later, or considered something that we consult on through the process.
No, you're right, Jonathan. And that's where the avenues that we have with community wellbeing, access and inclusion, youth empowerment, older persons, Te Tumeta Kahuki, those sorts of groups are just as vital as the progressive associations in terms of understanding their aspirations in terms of what we need to do as well. So the earlier we get that, in the past we've talked to Grey Power and the ratepayers associations and people like that, but I think we need to widen that scope earlier on so that we're just not, as David says, getting the submissions and then saying, sorry, but it's too late, our budgets are already completed.
I'll take broader than that for iwi. I think if we're truly aspiring to recognise the treaty, well, then we need equitable representation in one of these lead roles that are in your page 34 of your plan, or whatever it is, or your project plan.
So, Jonathan, because I think that's an important thing for council to give direction on, it would be good to hear elected members' views on that, and we could come back and scope what that would look like. Because what I'd ask of councillors is, are you then happy to commit additional funding to the project in order for us to compensate iwi for their time on that project? Because that project team, that's an operational, day-to-day. It's not something you would turn up to without having done work in between times. So we'd need to resource those positions.
Yes, I understand that, and that's what I'm asking.
Look, I have a concern about that for the very reason that Monique said. This is operational, but it's officer. This is the officer level part of the process. So if we do bring iwi in, I just wonder where we stop that sort of idea. I have a clear, in fact, physically on the pre-reading, I put a circle around it, understanding that this sits within the operational part of the process.
I'm not saying that it's open to all iwi. I'm saying we need that expertise that's representing some aspect of Māori or aspect of how we engage early and how we engage on an appropriate level through this. I mean, we have comms, finance. Why is not iwi engagement up there as well?
So, I was thinking of most of our workshops are open to the public, right? Do we need to make special invitations so that people are there that we want to talk to and consult with?
I'm saying we need to fund the expertise for Māori to be represented at the driving coalface of this project.
But can I just test this? Because the strategic direction, the direction to staff is going to come from this table, and so are you creating what kind of expertise are you trying to add into the project team? Because this is going to be it's not going to be transactional, but there's going to be a briefing, workshop, some direction. Start project team, go away, implement that, come back, report. Because ultimately this table is democratically accountable for the decisions that are going to get incorporated into LTP. So that would be my concern, is that then there's some strategic input that's coming through partners in an operational setting. So that I'm just trying to reconcile what.
But we need that Māori expertise sitting in that leadership level, in that project management level, sorry.
And you're right, we haven't included it in there, but at a staff level, we have been and will be working closely with our cultural outcomes team, with Araha, Ricky and Neville, to help us with engagement and development of materials. So I wonder whether that would go quite a way to addressing the points that you've raised. We'd also be looking to start early engagement. So it's definitely important, and we can add that into at least the working closely with the ones that we put on the core project team. It's kind of the meet week to week, and it's a time management piece as well as contribution.
I mean, that goes some way, but it's not quite what I'm asking for. I'm asking for equity or equality on that project management team. That is there to provide that expertise, that advice around engagement, working with iwi, how we get the best out of the iwi to contribute to this process as well, rather than just saying, oh, we're open, they can turn up if they feel like. I thought that was we had quite a discussion around fiduciary obligations last week, didn't we?
Yeah, so Jonathan, I wonder whether, because at the end of the day, council officers, we're taking direction from the table, and so if we want to pick up on that fiduciary relationship piece, will we not be further contributing to that if we're doing, like, picking up on Sam's comment? Like, I'm happy to explore it, but I just, without putting words in your mouth, I wonder whether, are you actually saying, is it not about giving our iwi partners a seat around this table during the workshops? Like, it might be speaking rights during the workshops to contribute to the outcomes, because it's councillors that drive the LTP. What officers are doing is preparing all the inputs into the LTP, whether it's writing an infrastructure strategy, and then, of course, in addition to that, there is the layer of our cultural outcomes team supporting the organisation through the Māori engagement process. But
I'm trying to elevate the role of your cultural outcomes to be in a more equal position in your office structure, because it's missing. It's clearly missing in your document. And that will drive a lot of change and a lot of engagement in this organisation if we had the expertise sitting at the same level as all the other officers. I understand that, you know, iwi can participate in this forum and turn up and make their statements, but they don't. And they don't because they don't see a way through. They're not reminded. They're not provided with the opportunity to freely come along. There's no one sort of providing that backstop or that accountability of, oh, have we done the right thing by iwi with this aspect of our management and our structure or our plan going forward. I mean, it's not that I don't trust any of the staff here or the officers here. It's just that sometimes they are focused more on their roles around finance, around planning, around comms, what have you. But I think we need someone specifically dedicated to driving the ability to make sure that we are engaging and delivering.
Yeah, I can support that actually. I'm just looking at the roles as well, and probably feeling much the same. You know, at the end of the day, we are iwi. There's 4 of us that sit around this table that are already iwi. I actually looking at the roles and I'm thinking, and picking up on what Councillor Crook was saying, is that, you know, Monique's there as a project sponsor. Maybe we need to have some governance oversight that sit in that. So maybe it's not maybe it's up to us to appoint someone there to be a overseer. Because I think Jonathan's exactly right. We don't. So when you talk about your cultural team, last time I checked, and I've checked several times, they only do internal stuff for council, not for iwi, not outside this building. And I've asked several times, so they can't drive this. They only look after your team. Last time I checked, Neville works for Te Tūmata Kahuki, so that's his role specific. So none of those people that you have in there for me sit at that level of this. So I'll be quite upfront and just say I actually think you need to either look at, as Jonathan said, resourcing to have someone put alongside that group, or you consider putting a councillor, and I'll even say a Māori ward councillor, as an overseer of that project. That's the only confidence I would have that the iwi, I feel, will get the proper engagement that's required.
My response to that, Justin, is this, my allergic reaction to it is we're getting into an operational space that is not our space. Like how Monique organises the resources to deliver on the direction that's given around this table is a matter for her. So I feel like we're trying, well, if I've understood what the objectives of what yourself and Jonathan are trying to achieve, it feels like getting into a swimming lane that's not ours. And so I'm not sure that either of you have articulated to me what you're actually trying to achieve, or what's missing, because the response from Monique has been that we have resources in within the organisation that can help navigate or bring that cultural lens that allows to help navigate about when we should be doing different things and how we should navigate those relationships and at what point or how engagement should be done in particular ways. But if there is specific direction or specific things we want to see in terms of the engagement or how we're engaging, that direction can be set at this table, and then that's for Monique to implement it. So that's my, just spring it out front, that's my allergic reaction, is that it feels like we're trying to get into an operational space and telling these guys how to do their job, not the outcome or the overarching direction that we're trying to achieve. So, feel free to respond to that, but that's the gut reaction.
And my gut reaction is I don't have confidence right now that this organisation is actually looking after our iwi. That's where I'm at. So unless you can come back and tell me how you're going to sit my iwi along, and I mean all of them, alongside this group to have a genuine... the problem I have right now is this council lean on iwi for everything. Every presentation you put here have iwi. Every group you bring here have iwi. But you don't resource their time. You don't resource their participation. So I just don't have confidence right now that team there are going to ensure that the iwi are actually fairly reflectively engaged and will have genuine input to any of this at all. I don't. So there's the truth of the matter. I don't care what the response is, but I don't have confidence right now that they are being looked after.
So look, without repeating what Sam said, I sit in exactly the same space as him. The confidence needs to be expressed either in this team, the governors, or not in this team. Because at the end of the day, the role of these people identified is operational. It's about bringing together advice for us, which we can challenge, and we can send them back for more if we disagree. But they are there to give the expertise and advice that is their role at an operational management level. In terms of how can we better engage with iwi through this process, this is for us to actually set that direction and make those challenges. So just with respect, I just cannot sit comfortably in that page where we do start to weave in a governance sort of angle into the operational arm. It is not our lane.
I'm not asking for a governance angle to be in the operational aspect of this project. What I'm saying is, and you hit the nail on the head, expertise. Where is the Māori expertise on that group? We have financial expertise, we have communication expertise, the typical business structures that we always go with, but there is no Māori expertise guiding that group. If we tell the officers to go away and engage with this group or get an opinion from this group, where is the expertise in supporting them to go and do that?
Yeah, look, there's obviously a conversation got to be had, Jonathan, about how we actually progress the engagement with iwi. But like any advice that we get as a table, it should encompass all aspects of our community, and we need to be confident that that information and that we're getting, we have the ability to make good decisions in the future. And we put it right up there, the elected members have ownership of the LTP. It's our role to ensure that everybody in the community is consulted and has the opportunity to input into our decisions that we make around this table. I don't think you should be putting, and I don't think it's fair on these guys to hear the conversation that we're having around their confidence, whether we have confidence in their ability to be able to deliver that. I don't think they shouldn't be hearing that sort of conversation now. If you want to have that conversation offline, sure, you have that with me and David or the rest of the table. But I don't think that this is the right forum to be able to question what Monique is actually doing on an operational level.
off Bernie and re-endorsed that nothing should be not put on the table. Well, this is being put on the table, and if you don't want to hear it, then close your ears. But what I'm going to say is, sitting in your roles, you got an ELT and a steering group, and you've put the same people on there. So what, they govern themselves? Come on.
We're not talking about governing.
Me, Bernie, I would actually prefer that my staff leave and we have this conversation with me, because we're actually talking about trust and confidence in the organisation to deliver on something, and it's not appropriate for my staff to hear this. So I'd rather my staff leave and we continue the conversation.